Hello, I'm Kingsley Singleton and welcome to this Absolute Photo video lesson. Adobe Photoshop Lightroom presents an incredibly powerful way of improving your shots, but many of its great organisational features get forgotten or simply aren't used to their full effect as people rush straight for the Develop module. So in this lesson we'll look at a few neat tricks to improve your organisation and workflow within Lightroom 5. The first thing we're going to look at is how to build smart previews of your imported images. And to do it, we're going to have to import a couple of files. So click on Import, and we choose a folder of images. Just uncheck all for now. And we're going to import these one at a time just to show you how smart previews work. So we'll check this one, and then make sure that we've got Add selected from the import options at the top. This means photos are just linked to the catalogue rather than moving them. Now over on the right hand side of the import dialog, we've got the file handling options here. You can just give it a click to open it, and what we're going to do is click next to Build Smart Previews and then simply click Import, and then we get a helpful little box telling us a smart preview has been built. Probably don't need to see that every time, so we'll click OK. And then to show you how it differs from a file without a smart preview, we'll click Import again, go back to our Northumbria folder, uncheck all, just highlight another picture there, and this time untick Build Smart Previews, click Import again, and then in our catalogue you'll see we've got our two pictures. Now if I just make sure that our histogram panel is open here, you'll see the difference between the two files when I click between them. This one underneath the histogram says Original and Smart Preview, and this one just says Original Photo. So now let's see how that works in practice. Ordinarily I can move either of these photos through to the Develop module, and I can make any of the normal adjustments that I want. However, if we switch back to the Library module and I unplug the hard drive that they've come from, there we go, very quickly you'll see that this time the first photo just has Smart Preview underneath it, and the second says Photo is missing. The link between the hard drive and Lightroom has been broken, so when we click on Develop to take this photo through, we have File Could Not Be Found, and all of our tabs here are greyed out, meaning we can't make any adjustments. Take it back to the Library module, highlight our Smart Preview version and click Develop once again, and there you can see that we have all of the usual options available to us, all via that Smart Preview version. Now of course this is enormously beneficial if you're working from files on an external hard drive, as many of us do. It means you can unplug it from your laptop, for instance, and work away from home, and you'll still be able to edit your files. And the great thing as well is that any changes we make to the file, just very quickly kind of using some of the sliders here, any changes we make will be reapplied to the raw file as soon as we plug back in our hard drive. Let's do that now and you'll see what happens. The legend below the histogram swaps back to Original and Smart Preview, and any of those changes are instantly applied. The next thing we're going to do is look at creating default development settings for your pictures. Now this is really useful if, say, you want to apply a lens correction effect to your pictures, something that's quite easy to forget when you get sidetracked by exposure changes, and these default settings that you make can be tailored to apply only to certain cameras. So say we want the files from the Nikon D600 I was using to always have lens corrections applied, but not any other cameras. That's easy to do. And it means that every time we open a picture, these lens corrections will be applied, or we could do it, for instance, with noise reduction at certain ISOs. To make it happen, we need to come up to Lightroom and down to Preferences, and in here, first click on Presets, and then find this option called Make Default Specific to Camera Serial Number, and give that one a click. If you want to make Develop defaults apply to certain ISO settings, you can do that too, but for now we'll leave that one unticked. Close down the preferences, and then we'll click on one of the pictures that we want to work on, move through to the Develop module, close our Basic tab, and then come down to Lens Corrections, and in here we'll click on the options Enable Profile Corrections, which automatically applies those settings to the picture, remove Chromatic Aberration, which takes care of fringing, and Constrain Crop. Below that are options to level up your pictures, but it's best to leave those to do manually, because you never know quite how they're going to look when you apply the default. Now at this point we want to make sure that any other options are all at their defaults because we only want to apply the lens correction element to the picture. So we'll hit reset, and that's turned off our lens corrections as well, so we'll just click those back on. And now all we need to do is hold down the Alt key on the keyboard, or the Option key as it's sometimes called on a Mac, and click on Set Default. In the dialog that comes up, you'll notice the model is right and the serial number of the camera is in there as well. And then just click on Update to Current Settings. So now what happens if we click back on our library module and we go to Import, and then we choose to import another couple of pictures. We can uncheck all again, just pop these two in, click Import, and those lens correction settings will be added by default, meaning we'll never forget to add them again. The third thing we're going to look at is how to edit and apply a metadata preset. Now, that might sound a little bit dry, but it's actually really useful. Mainly because it allows you to add copyright information automatically to your pictures. Come up to Metadata and down to Edit Metadata Presets. And in here, the most important ones are IPTC copyright, which stands for International Press Telecoms Council. Give that a click. And then in the boxes next to it, you can add your copyright, which is your name or your company name. Copyright status, we'll say copyrighted. Rights usage terms, we could say fees apply. And no reproduction without consent. Or whatever you want to put in your rights information. And then finally, if you want to add more information to that, you can just link it to a URL. Of course, you can fill in any of these other fields to be applied by default as well. But for now, we'll just click Done, save it as a new preset, and it's best just to kind of give it your name, and click Create. Now, if we head back into our import dialog, and once again we click a couple of photos to import. We can then come over to the right hand side again and click next to Apply During Import, down to Metadata, and then we can choose the option that we just saved. Click Import then, and if we click on the Metadata tab there on the right hand side, you can see that our copyright information has been added. One last thing we need to do to make sure that our metadata is written to our raw files rather than just remaining in the Lightroom catalogue is come up to the Lightroom menu and down to Catalogue Settings, and then click on Metadata. And just check this box here, automatically write changes to XMP. This works for other changes as well, and the great thing about it is that when you open your raw files in other programs, all of the changes that you applied will appear. One last thing to do to make sure that your metadata stays with your file even after export, as a JPEG for instance, is to click on Export and make sure under the metadata setting that it's set to all metadata. This should be set by default, but it's worth checking.